Rock is the fakest celebrity in Hollywood.
The Rock is not natural, okay? The Rock he's not a patient of mine, so I don't worry about getting sued.
I can tell you with a little bit of uncertainty because I failed math, I was probably at that time ingesting about anywhere between 6 to, well, I would say possible, almost 8,000 calories a day.
I can tell you there is no way The Rock burns off enough calories to average 6,000 to 8,000 calories a day and look like this. If he actually ate those kind of calories, 6,000 to 8,000 a day, he would be 100 pounds overweight. There is no way he eats this much.
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was once untouchable, the man who could step out of a WWE ring, dominate Hollywood, and still convince fans he was the hardest worker in any room he walked into. His story was a perfect storm of charisma, muscles, discipline, and an uncanny ability to reinvent himself again and again. He wasn't just a wrestler or an actor, he was a brand, a motivational poster come to life. But in recent years, that shine has started to crack, and what's spilling out is not the legend fans once adored, but a man accused of being more concerned with optics than honesty. From messy feuds and corporate power plays to bizarre food lies and tone-deaf charity asks, The Rock's empire of perfection is starting to look like a house of cards. And tonight we're diving into how one of the most beloved stars on Earth started bleeding millions of fans by the hour. Before we dig into the scandals and rumors that have chipped away at his legacy, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you think The Rock can make a comeback, or if the people's champ has finally cooked his last meal.
Not only do I not think he's natural, I don't think he's on HRT. I think he's on the kitchen sink. Whatever he can take,
Really?
I think he's on all of it and then some. You don't get big like that into your 50s compared to your 40s and 30s. Like you see some photos of him in his 30s, he's way bigger and leaner.
I would believe that The Rock would be on TRT, but just testosterone replacement therapy. A very good thing to do. It's actually very good for you, very healthy for you.
You can't even get there with HRT. That's not HRT.
We're going to be talking about what steroid cycle I think The Rock uses.
The first time fans really saw the cracks was during his time in the Fast and Furious franchise. What was once a story about family quickly became a public ego war. The infamous Instagram post where he called an unnamed co-star a candy ass sent the fandom into overdrive. He never dropped a name, but everyone knew he meant Vin Diesel. Reports came out that The Rock demanded contracts where he couldn't lose fights, couldn't be shown weaker than his co-stars, and had to have the same amount of screen time. What had once been a franchise about teamwork suddenly felt like a vanity project. Fans who loved his friendly, larger-than-life energy were shocked to see this controlling side. Instead of brotherhood,
This is the third time he's done it. He keeps pretending that he's trying In-N-Out for the first time every couple of years. The other two videos are still on your Instagram page.
the brand started to smell like boardroom negotiations. And while the feud was juicy for headlines, it left fans with a bitter taste. Was this the people's champ, or just another diva guarding his image at all costs? That feud didn't end his career, but it planted the first seed of doubt. Then came the burgers. Believe it or not, one of the biggest dents in his authenticity came from something as simple as a trip to In-N-Out. In 2017, he posted that it was his very first time at the iconic fast food joint. Fans thought it was a fun, relatable moment. But then in 2022, he claimed it again, another first-time video, complete with exaggerated excitement. And in 2023, you guessed it, a third first-time burger adventure, this time with him fumbling through the menu as though he'd never seen it before.
Why this is history in the making is because this is the very first time that I have ever tried an In-N-Out burger, or In-N-Out fries, or anything from In-N-Out for that matter.
Fans quickly dug up his old posts, calling him out for recycling the same stunt. YouTubers made entire breakdowns, mocking how he staged his first time 3 times. When your whole brand is authenticity, the last thing you want is to look like you're faking relatability for clout. Editing the caption after the fact didn't help, it just screamed PR damage control. People realized if he was willing to lie about a burger, then maybe every candid moment was manufactured. And that's when the term walking billboard started sticking to his name. The burger saga wasn't just about food. It tapped into a bigger problem, the myth of his body. The Rock built his brand on the idea that he's the hardest worker alive, pounding iron at 4 a.m. and eating 6,000 to 8,000 calories a day to keep his muscles fed.
We first launched the fund, there was some backlash, and I want to address and acknowledge that backlash right now. And here's what I have to say about that. I get it, and I completely understand. And I could have been better. And next time I will.
It's a narrative tailor-made for inspiration and for selling products. Energy drinks, athletic wear, supplements, everything he touched was marketed as part of his insane grind. But the numbers didn't add up. Experts laughed at the calorie claims, pointing out that if he really ate that much, he'd be carrying 100 extra pounds. His famous cod and rice diet was closer to 3,000 calories, but exaggerating to 8,000 made him look superhuman. His training clips, often billed as raw and unfiltered, were also questioned. Fitness coaches noted that weights he grimaced over were actually light for someone of his size. It looked more like theater than training. And once fans realized the workouts and meals might be exaggerated storylines, it shifted from inspiration to illusion. That illusion sold millions in merch, but it also created resentment. People started asking, if the grind is fake, is the man fake too? The steroid rumors didn't help. The Rock has always claimed he tried them once at 18 and never touched them again. But as he aged into his 50s and somehow looked leaner, bigger, and sharper than ever, skepticism spread. Fitness influencers and even big names like Joe Rogan flat out said there was no way he was natural. Others speculated he might be on testosterone replacement or even heavier cycles. The Rock never addressed it directly, sticking to his hardest worker in the room mantra, but in today's internet age, silence often sounds like guilt. His refusal to talk about it only amplified the suspicion. For younger fans who idolized him, the thought that he was selling a dream body they could never achieve naturally was a betrayal. The hashtag #RockOnRoids went viral, and once again, his authenticity took another hit. If you're selling supplements and inspiration but hiding chemical help, the whole empire starts to look built on sand. Hollywood wasn't much kinder. His pet project Black Adam was supposed to change the hierarchy of the DC universe. Johnson didn't just star in it, he shaped the script, marketed it as the new cornerstone of superhero cinema, and promised fans it would redefine the genre. Instead, the movie flopped hard. Analysts estimated it lost tens of millions. Instead of owning the L, Johnson pushed stories claiming it was secretly profitable. Fans weren't buying it. Memes exploded comparing him to a bad accountant, and people mocked him for trying to spin failure into success. That was the difference between The Rock and Dwayne Johnson. The Rock would have laughed it off and said, "We'll get him next time." Dwayne Johnson, the brand, couldn't admit defeat, and audiences saw right through it. Things got even worse when he stumbled through cultural controversies. In 2022, he praised Joe Rogan online as a brother, just as Rogan faced backlash for racist remarks. When the backlash hit him, he quickly backtracked with an apology, claiming he didn't know the full story. Fans saw a man with no backbone, willing to flip sides depending on the crowd. The same pattern played out with his podcast appearance on Rogan's show. Instead of leaning into candid, controversial conversation like most guests, he rambled through safe talking points, dodging anything risky. Fans called him robotic, even comparing him to a chatbot. Polished but empty. Then came the Maui wildfires. Johnson and Oprah launched a fund, donating millions themselves but also asking everyday people to contribute. Fans weren't impressed. With his estimated $800 million net worth, asking struggling families for money felt out of touch. Once again, he had to apologize, saying he could have done better. It was the same pattern: bold move, backlash, retreat. And nothing makes a star look weaker than retreating over and over. Meanwhile, his Instagram turned into one long advertisement. Nearly 3/4 of his posts were ads, whether for his tequila, his energy drinks, his sneakers, or his movies. Fans started calling him Dwayne the Ad Johnson. Every caption felt like it had a sponsor. And when the human gets lost in the sales pitch, fans check out. It's not that people hate ads, they hate being tricked into thinking an ad is authenticity. When you realize your idol is selling you a lifestyle instead of sharing a life, it stings. But the biggest backlash came when he returned to the very stage that made him a household name: WWE. In January 2024, Johnson joined the WWE's parent company board. Just 10 days later, the WrestleMania storyline shifted. Cody Rhodes, the underdog fan favorite who'd been built up for years, suddenly stepped aside for The Rock to take the main event. Fans didn't buy it. The promo hyping Rock versus Roman Reigns became the most disliked WWE video in history. Hashtags like "Cody deserves better" trended worldwide. It wasn't just fans who were upset, other wrestlers spoke out, calling it disrespectful to those who had put in the work. To fans, it looked like Johnson used his boardroom power to hijack the spotlight. For a man whose catchphrase was "Know your role," this was the ultimate hypocrisy. Within weeks, WWE had to rewrite the storyline to put Cody back on track, but the damage was already done. In the eyes of wrestling fans, The Rock didn't just overstep, he trampled a story years in the making. That betrayal burned deeper than any Hollywood flop or food fib ever could. And so, the tumble became a free-fall. Over 5 months, Johnson lost 5 million Instagram followers. For a man who used to gain millions a month, that was a stunning reversal. His upcoming film projects stalled, sequels delayed, enthusiasm cooled. The myth of the invincible superstar crumbled under the weight of exaggerations, PR stunts, and corporate moves that put brand over fans. The Rock, the people's champion, had morphed into Dwayne Johnson, the brand mascot. And fans were no longer buying it. The lesson here is simple but brutal. When you spend too long trying to be everything to everyone, you end up meaning nothing to anyone. Johnson thought fans wanted perfection, but what they really craved was honesty. They wanted to see flaws, failures, realness. Instead, they got burgers staged like commercials, workouts scripted like movie scenes, apologies written like press releases, and storylines hijacked for ego. The downfall of The Rock isn't a scandal that took him down overnight. It's the slow collapse of trust. And in the age of social media, when trust is the only real currency, even the strongest brand can crumble fast. Can he make a comeback? Maybe, but only if he stops being The Rock, the walking billboard, and starts being Dwayne Johnson, a man who admits mistakes, shows vulnerability, and stops spinning every loss into a win. Because at the end of the day, audiences don't want perfect icons, they want authentic humans. And until The Rock figures that out, his empire will keep cracking one follower at a time. The strange part is that The Rock doesn't actually need to sell perfection anymore. At this point in his career, his legacy is already cemented. He's one of the most successful wrestlers in history, one of the few athletes who transitioned into Hollywood superstardom, and a man who built businesses worth hundreds of millions. But that hunger to always be bigger, shinier, and more flawless may be the very thing pulling him down. Fans don't resent him for being rich or jacked. They resent the feeling that he's always trying to control the narrative, instead of living in it. If he dropped the script and showed up messy, angry, or even vulnerable, the internet would probably embrace him again. Think about other celebrities who've reinvented themselves by leaning into their flaws. They didn't double down on a spotless brand, they admitted the cracks, and the cracks made them human. The Rock has the charisma and natural likability to do the same. But as long as every post looks like an ad campaign, audiences will see him less as a man and more as a corporation in sneakers. And that's the irony of his story. Dwayne Johnson was the king of reinvention, turning boos into cheers, wrestling into acting, acting into mogul status. Reinvention built him, but reinvention could also save him again if he's willing to evolve in a way that's not about scaling bigger, but about scaling back. In an era where authenticity trumps polish, maybe the biggest flex isn't another blockbuster, another business venture, or another protein shake endorsement. Maybe it's sitting down without a script, admitting the missteps, and connecting without a filter. Fans don't need him to be invincible, they just want him to be real. If he finds the courage to do that, the same people who turned on him might be the very ones to lift him back up. But if he keeps choosing the brand over the man, then Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson may end up as Hollywood's loudest cautionary tale, proof that no amount of muscles, money, or marketing can protect you when the people stop believing the story.